In this video, we'll discuss a facial feature referred to as Sanpaku, how it can be seen in the eyes, and things to consider in terms of managing and addressing it. Enjoy. Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to talk about Sanpaku Eyes. So that term, Sanpaku, okay, I've heard it said or pronounced Sanpaku. I'm not sure which way to actually say it. I've heard Sanpaku a lot more, so I'm going to say it that way in this video. That is a Japanese term. So the lineage that I study of face reading stems from the Chinese medicine tradition. However, there's some crossover between these things. And so the term, okay, that's most people know it by, again, is Sanpaku. Now, if you count in Japanese, each ni, san is 3, okay? Sanpaku relates to the 3 whites of the eye. So we're going to talk about this facial feature in the eyes, what this means in terms of your life terrain, things to consider, things to be careful of, the physical metrics that come with it, because it technically is a life-depleting feature. It's not something that you really want to have, but it also doesn't mean your life's over if you have it. So, 2 different types of Sanpaku eyes. There is yin Sanpaku, okay? So let's talk about the 3 whites, what they mean by that, because people get confused, and then we'll talk about the 2 types. If you look at my eyes right now, as I look into the camera, the 2 whites that are predominant are the inner and outer, okay? So when the head is level and straight and resting, and we're not looking up or down, when the eyes are level, you should see with a balanced eye 2 whites. Now, if I do this and I tilt my head down, you can now see the bottom white, which makes it 3 whites. That's the 3 whites they're talking about. It's when the bottom or the top is being seen with the 2 sides. That's the 3 whites. So again, if you tilt your head down, any of us tilt our head down, we're going to see the 3 whites. This doesn't apply when the head is tilted down. It's when the head is neutral, level, and at rest. And if you see that feature, then you know the person has Sanpaku eyes. So yin Sanpaku is this one. The bottom whites, yang Sanpaku, is where the tops, right? That crazy look that people have in their face. That's the upper white. That's yang Sanpaku. So we'll talk about these both, but I want to just lay that framework so you understand what the 3 whites mean. Outside of all of that, we're going to talk about the physical component first. A famous person who had this, very well known, JFK. JFK had Addison's disease. And with that, this happens to the eyes. Not with every single person, but it's a very common trait that happens. So it's definitely a physical marker for usually some kind of physical health leaking in specifically a few areas. The areas in Chinese medicine or Eastern medicine that you want to track would be the kidney system, the water element system, and the fire element system, which relates to the heart and the consciousness, and we'll go into the other metrics, okay? But the heart, the small intestine, the pericardium, and the sanja, which is basically our endocrine system, those are the systems to be looking at if we see this. Now, JFK, as we know, was assassinated. And so this points to one of the metrics in terms of yin Sanpaku, or Sanpaku on either side, but if a person has the Sanpaku eyes, if you are famous, this is a very unfavorable trait to have because it becomes more dangerous when you're in a public sphere where you have a lot of fame and notoriety. And there's a reason for this. The thing you have to remember about face reading is that we all face read. From the moment we're born to the day we die, we're all face reading. People do this. And the way the face rests and the expressions that we have and the way the features present, we're all reading. And if you believe in genetic imprinting and how instinct is passed on from generation to generation and why some of us have aptitudes because our parents were good at certain things, these gifts that are passed down, there is a genetic echo that moves through our system and through our bodies that helps keep us alive. So we're a part of the animal kingdom. And the reason this is dangerous in the public sphere, okay, if you have these eyes, is because it points to physical depletion and leaking. And if we're seeing that leaking in the animal kingdom, when an animal is weak, okay, or it's in decline, there is a propensity for the mentally unstable humans in the world to go after that and to target that person the same way an animal is targeted in a pack. If you watch any kind of nature documentary, there are hierarchies, and nature is brutal. Nature does not tire of bloodshed and carnage. It is brutal to watch what happens to baby zebras when they come into contact with lions, or you see an animal taken out when they are in decline. They are usually beat to death. They are snuffed out. And so, basically, when we have an overt physical leaking being seen by millions of people, if we're in the public sphere, again, the mentally unfit, the mentally unstable may see that as something that needs to be taken out. So, according to face reading theory, people who have this in the public sphere, it's very unlucky and it can lead to an early death. So, by definition, JFK fits that. He was assassinated. Now, there's a lot of political reasons why they think, he was assassinated. And the East says all of these metrics, how your destiny, how your life path unfolds, the physical health you carry, all of these things make this very dynamic web of cosmic information that allows humans to, live their lives. So it's more complex than just that, but I want to paint this picture. Now, the other thing to think about with the Sanpaku Eyes is that when we see this, an overstimulation of the fire element. So when we say the fire element, we're talking about the heart. The heart is the center or the seat of the consciousness or the soul or the anima of a person. So when we have that, when we have that metric in place, that means what we're seeing in the eyes is indicative of that elemental system being taxed. It means if we're seeing a leakage in the eyes, which exudes fire, right? The eyes are the gateway and the portal to the soul or the shen or the spirit of a person, which resides in the heart, right? It's a two-way street. When we're seeing that and there's a depletion and the eyes are leaking this way, that means that there's an overstimulation, there is an overuse of the fire element, there is something happening with the dynamics of the fire element that are likely being overused. So that's something to keep in mind. And if we see the yang Sanpaku with the whites on top, this usually points to volatility, reactivity, impulsivity, people that are just very sensitive to stimulation and can be kind of set off very easily. It doesn't mean that you're explicitly a killer, although it is a very crazy look. A famous person who had this was Charles Manson, right? There's a number of photos with him where he was like this. And yeah, sometimes he was tilting his head back, but when the eyes, when a person adopts a posture and they start to do that, we see these metrics. Now, the other thing to think about is, if we look at Addison's disease affects the adrenals. The adrenals are the little tiny things, little tiny pea-sized glands that sit on top of your kidneys. This is what gives you superhuman strength in the event of an emergency. This is where you've seen the videos of a mother's child who's pinned under a car and the 150-pound woman lifts the car up and moves it. That is where the adrenals essentially dump out a huge dose of adrenaline, or what we would call definitely part of the Jing system, our constitutional strength, and it gives you this temporary superhuman capacity. And so Addison's affects that. It affects the adrenals, It affects the Jing. And so when we look at the eyes, and in the bottom of the eyes in particular, the lower eyelid here, like the eyelid here and just below it relates to the kidney and bladder system. If we see like puffiness there, that can be bladder inflammation. If we see a lot of darkness under there, that's a kidney imbalance. The thing you have to remember is that the kidney system, the water element system, the kidney and bladder, it also regulates the marrow, which is deep inside of our bones, the deepest part of us physically, like into the middle, right? The bones are the deepest part, and inside the bones is the marrow. That all relates to kidney energy, and what's inside the spinal cord is, yes, marrow, but also the central nervous system. So when we see an imbalance in the eyes like this, and the eyes, and we start to see leakage at the bottom of the eyes, this is sort of like, it's like a ding, ding, ding saying, the water element is leaking, and the water element regulates your central nervous system. So again, that kind of goes back to stimulation. Your central nervous system is sort of like a biological computer that takes all information in: gravity, light, sound, everything, right? We're processing all the time. And yes, we can become overstimulated. We can become out of sorts and deplete our system by being not able to properly digest the stimuli in our lives. So again, if we're seeing this, these are the areas to be looking at. Get your heart checked out. Check out specifically to the fire element metrics: spontaneity, social activity, how much stimulation you get, the activity, the movement in your life. Check those things, but then look at kidney and bladder as well, and be aware if you have Sanpaku Eyes in any capacity, what this kind of the propensity is for life force to leak, which means when life force is leaking, we're a little bit more vulnerable to things being taken from us. So as your health is being taken from you for whatever reason, if you haven't sealed that leak, the external world, the way reality works, it's like you can be taken from. This means bad tenants, bad relationships, bad business dealings. It means that you can sometimes, maybe because the life force is depleting a little bit, your judge of character might not be as good as it could be. Therefore, unsavory people, unsavory situations, and unsavory opportunities, and what I would call situational luck patterns might be deficient in your life, and things can be taken from you. So, there are ways to navigate this. You can always reach out with me around lifestyle guidance, specifically on how to address this should you be carrying this feature. But do be careful if you are in the public sphere and you carry this feature, because it's, according to theory, not great. And if you do have this feature and you are in a public sphere where you have a lot of fame and notoriety, it's something that I would address quicker and try to get on top of it. That's all I've got for today. Please share your comments below if you've got questions about Sanpaku Eyes, experiences with you people that you know that have Sanpaku Eyes, or if you have them, what's been your experience? All right, y'all, take care.